Call it the battle of the nuclear buttons between President Trump and the leader of North Korea. But it's no joke. The U.S. should know the nuclear button is on my desk. The entire U.S. mainland is within our nuclear strike range.
Blessed are the eyes that see what you see. For I tell you, many kings and prophets have desired to see what you see, and have not seen it. To hear what you hear, and have not heard it. I thank you, Father, for hiding these things from the learned and the wise, and revealing them to the innocent and the simple.
North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un says the United States should be aware his nuclear forces are now a reality. He made the announcement during his annual New Year's Day address on North Korean state television. He said the North has completed its arsenal and a nuclear button is on his desk. According to Kim Jong-un, the entire U.S. mainland is within striking range, and the U.S. can never start a war against North Korea.
President Trump responded on Twitter, "Will someone from his depleted and food-starved regime please inform him that I too have a nuclear button, but it is a much bigger and more powerful one than his, and my button works." President Trump doesn't actually have a physical nuclear button. He has a bag containing what's called the nuclear football. But that didn't stop Trump from teasing Kim.
In his New Year's speech, Kim boasted that the nuclear button is on his desk and vowed to begin mass production of nuclear warheads and ballistic missiles. Those were just words, but U.S. intelligence has detected what appear to be preparations for another test of an intercontinental ballistic missile.
I hope that does not happen. But if it does, we must bring even more measures to bear on the North Korean regime.
Indications are the North Koreans are preparing to test their longest-range missile, which they celebrated in the form of a gigantic ice sculpture over New Year's. When it was first tested last November, the real missile flew long enough to reach anywhere in the U.S. had it been aimed in the right direction. If preparations continue, it could be ready for launch by the end of this week.
The former chairman of the Joint Chiefs offered an alarming assessment of the nuclear standoff.
We're actually closer, in my view, to a nuclear war with North Korea and in that region than we've ever been, and I just don't see I don't see the opportunities to solve this diplomatically at this particular point.
Today in Iran, streets on fire, protesters clashing with police, banks and public buildings attacked. Some in the crowds chanting revolutionary slogans. Down with the dictator, they cried.
In some of the worst violence so far, protesters attacked a police station last night, about 200 miles south of Tehran. There's no way to know who was shooting, but state media say 6 people died. Activist videos from the last 6 days show wounded demonstrators. Protesters in the capital chanting "Death to the dictator." And jeering crowds vandalizing pictures of Iran's supreme religious leader, Ali Khamenei. He broke his silence today to put the blame on, as he put it, enemies of the Islamic Republic who have used money, weapons, and intelligence services to create problems. That hints at foreign interference. But Iran's moderate president, Hassan Rouhani, said today that the protesters are just fed up with poverty and lack of freedom. This is the most serious uprising in Iran since the massive election protests in 2009 that were so brutally put down. Back then, the discontent was focused in Tehran. This time, it's countrywide.
Tonight, the devastating nor'easter, a bomb cyclone, unleashing its power. In Massachusetts, hurricane-force wind gusts, and in Scituate on the coast, some of the worst flooding in recent memory. Homes and businesses inundated.
Massive flooding swept through Boston, turning streets into slow-moving rivers, sending water into restaurants and office buildings while forcing evacuations. Firefighters rescued trapped drivers. In Brant Rock, Massachusetts, high winds sent frigid waters pouring over the seawall and into the streets. About 25 miles away in Hull, Massachusetts, cars were washed away by the rising tide. Further up the coast, in Scituate, wind and waves turned ice into projectiles.
Many say it's the most powerful storm surge in decades.
I was shocked at how quickly the water rose.
Rescuers helped more than a dozen people when water encircled their homes. Rafts weren't the only way to safety. You can see here a Good Samaritan uses a front-end loader to rescue a woman from the second story of her house.
This is the biggest one since I was a kid in 1978.
The winter weather caused the Hudson River to freeze in New York City. The Coast Guard used a cutter to break up the ice. On the ground, the storm turned deadly. Authorities say at least 7 people lost their lives in weather-related accidents. And blizzard conditions even hit in places like the Virginia Beach area. The snow piled quickly in the strong winds, a far cry from what you picture when you think of the tourist destination.
To the index of other news tonight, the earthquake in the west, the magnitude 4.4 quake jolting the San Francisco Bay Area. The rumbling lasting about 10 seconds there. It did strike near the University of California at Berkeley along the Hayward Fault, which is capable of producing a magnitude 7 quake.
A magnitude 4.3 earthquake has hit a county in Songyang City, Jilin province in China's northeast. It happened around 8 p.m. local time with a depth of 8 kilometers. Local residents have been evacuated and no casualties are reported at present.
The CDC tonight investigating an E. coli outbreak. At least 58 people sickened in 13 states and in Canada. 2 people have died. Canadian health officials believe the possible cause may be linked to romaine lettuce. The CDC has not specifically said lettuce is to blame.
Palestinians are outraged by U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to cut financial aid to the Palestinian Authority. Trump tweeted Tuesday, January 2nd, quote, "We pay the Palestinians hundreds of millions of dollars a year and get no appreciation or respect. They don't even want to negotiate a long overdue peace treaty with Israel." Trump added, quote, "With the Palestinians no longer willing to talk peace, why should we make any of these massive future payments to them?" U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley said Tuesday the U.S. may stop funding a UN agency that gives humanitarian aid to Palestinian refugees. That agency reported funding had not been halted as of Wednesday. A senior Palestinian official condemned Trump's threat Wednesday, saying, quote, "We will not be blackmailed." A spokesperson for President Mahmoud Abbas said Palestinians would reconsider peace talks if they included the formation of a Palestinian state.
Investigators are also looking into a shooting in suburban Denver that killed a sheriff's deputy and wounded 4 other deputies. They say the officers were called to an apartment complex for a verbal disturbance when they were ambushed and shot at. Matthew Ryle then fired more than 100 rounds before SWAT officers entered and killed him in a shootout. Ryle had previously posted videos online railing against the local sheriff's department and police. Colorado's governor, John Hickenlooper, has ordered flags to fly at half-staff until tomorrow evening in honor of Zachary Parrish. He is the officer who died.